The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. It's 10 p.m. Me and Mark are asking the same question we do every Monday night, but Louie Miley won't be able to listen to this because he'll be in bed because he's only a young lad. What's going on? What's going on with you, Mark?
Good man. How are you doing?
I'm very good.
He'll be tired after his effort on Saturday as well. He was brilliant.
Yeah. As long as he's not sharing a room with somebody who stays up too late, God bless him. But yes, we'll be talking about this absolute wonder boy as the episode goes on. No doubt about it. But it's been a cracking week so far for Newcastle. A huge week. Obviously, part one done. Part two is tomorrow, which we will talk a little bit about. Huge game tomorrow. Then obviously roll on to the weekend to battle that shite team that we call United, the other United, the Manchester United. But there'll be plenty of that to get stuck into as the week progresses. But tonight, we've got plenty of crack and banter for you, as always, on what's going on. As we always say before we start any episode, if you are new to the channel, you're just checking us out for the first time, hello, bonjour if you're in France. Nice to have you on board. Why don't you smash that button, hang around a little bit longer, subscribe. We are over 5,900 subs. We're so close. We're so close to 6K. I want 6K for Christmas, as I said. Fuck what Mariah Carey wants. I want 6K. Come on, give us 6K for Christmas, guys. We'll be buzzing. We've had an unbelievable year so far, and 6K to end 2023 would really just top us off. Absolutely brilliant. Smash that button. All free content. If you do want to give a bit back to the channel, there is a member option there as well. And we are live tonight, as a few of you have already jumped in. My favorite handle, who always likes to test me out, is the Old Angry Noob Gamer, is in the house. Good to see you, mate. Simon's in the house. Mad Mag is here. George is here. Who isn't? Remember, if you want to join George, click the button. You know what to do. Ian's here as well, as is BT and Santo. Evening to you as well. Love that picture. It's fantastic. It looks like some kind of crazy piss camel with some spaghetti on their head. Love it. So let's get stuck in then, Mark. There's only one place to start, isn't there, really? And it's the boy wonder, mate. It's the boy wonder. 17.
So the crazy piss camel's just got me completely.
Crazy piss camel. I tell you what, it's a marketing sensation. We can have t-shirts and mugs everywhere. Crazy piss camel. But anyway, going back to somebody who's not crazy, somebody who's absolutely fucking mint, and that is Louie Miley, 17 years old. Mark, what were you doing at 17? I bet you weren't putting killer passes through to a brilliant centre forward to score against Chelsea, were you, mate?
No, I definitely wasn't doing that.
We'd probably go to the pub, mate. We'd probably go to the pub.
I think the height of my year of 17 was probably going into Rio's in Whitley or Sylvester's on a Thursday night or something like that.
Thursday, as it was notoriously known as, mate. Absolutely.
I definitely wasn't playing against Chelsea at St James's Park. There we go. That's
no.
Yeah, look, he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, there were so many players to choose from to kind of cover from the game on Saturday. But Miley, I think, just purely and simply when he and it's been covered already by loads. But you put a 17-year-old lad up against a World Cup winner, up against effectively £200 million midfielders across the game in Fernandes and Enzo and Caicedo, up against one of England's, Southgate's picks now for every squad.
He's shit. Spit it out, Mark. He's shit.
Absolutely nothing. Conor Gallagher did absolutely nothing.
He's fucking terrible.
And he didn't look out of place. He looked like he was quick to close. He was good on the ball. He was so calm with the ball. So calm. And he played like a player 5, 6, 7 years older. He was composed when he got it. He gave it away a couple of times. But I mean, it was just, brought ahead by that brilliant through ball for Isak's goal. The way that he just takes the touch and then he sees. I mean, it's like the Red Sea parting before him as the Chelsea defenders get sucked all over the place, and they haven't got a clue. And he's like stood there in the middle, going, "Is it Christmas already?" Because he's just given the acres and acres of space. Miley spots it so quickly. That one touch, the ball through to him was just sublime. But he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. And for a lad of that age too, and go on and on and on about his age. But that thing, he's 17. This is his first start at St James's Park in the league. He does not look out of place. And alongside Bruno, who I thought was magnificent as well, he rocked the place. He really did. And up against that caliber of midfielder that a lot of teams were sort of scrambling over, he was head and shoulders above them.
He really was. I love the goal. Just before we get stuck into that, we've got a donation from Colin, £5 in the super chat.
Thank you, Colin.
I really appreciate that, mate. Great to have you on board tonight. So what I loved as well about the goal, I think I said it in the post-match as well, and a lot of people picked up on it. Obviously, when Isak scored the goal, he was actually quite surprised, I think, that the ball came to him. And what I love about the pass as well, I was talking to somebody about this earlier on today. So Louie Miley, 17 years old, St James's Park, 50-odd thousand there. A lot of people would be rattled. A lot of people would have either shot. A lot of people might have even looked for an easier ball. He had Almiron to his right-hand side. Bruno is screaming at him next to him, absolutely screaming at him to say, give me the ball. And he then slips the ball through just with pure composure. He's passed to, international class players in Chelsea shirts that are way more experienced than he is. To Isak, who looked generally shocked when the ball came. Oh, fuck, I've got the ball. And then when Isak spins, I mean, the way Isak sorts his feet out, I mean, we'll come on Isak in a minute, the way he sorts his feet out so quickly to take the finish is just, that shows you what he's all about. But what I loved, he ran away to celebrate, and then he obviously realised in that moment, oh shit, hang on a minute, the boy's just got his first assist, which we'll come on to some statistics about where he sits in that in a minute. But this is what I absolutely loved. All of the players just flocked around Louie Miley, as you can see from the picture there. I mean, the kid was buzzing, the smile on his face. It was like he got his, puppy for Christmas or something. The look on his face was absolutely fucking class. It really was. And then Isak just did what footballers do. Just the passion got him, and he was like screaming in his face, just like, ah! Like Gordon comes running over, and he's just like, you're fucking mint, and everyone's giving him that. And honestly, if you could bottle how that kid must have felt there, Mark, and sell that, you'd be a rich individual. But he didn't let it go to his head. He didn't get overawed. He wasn't trying stupid things afterwards. He was so calm. I mean, listen, I'm not going to get into superlatives, right? But he is the Jordi Iniesta, right? It's pretty clear. But people are talking like Carrick Mark II and all of that. I don't want to get on that bandwagon yet, right? But Michael Carrick had that kind of composure at a young age as well. He didn't look rattled. He didn't look phased. And I worked with a kid who played for the same school team as Michael Carrick, and he said he was always like that. Everybody else was rushing and kicking and panicking, and Michael Carrick just seemed like he had loads of time, way more time than anybody else. Louie Miley seems to have that at such a young age, that time on the ball mark, that presence, that kind of vision and calmness in his mind to just not rush things. I mean, he's got a huge game tomorrow, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Mark, how good could this kid be for us if that's what he's doing in his second appearance in the Premier League, man? How good could he be?
Yeah, look, it's almost a dangerous game to get too overhyped for somebody so young. But when you've played as well as he has, and that's twice now he's done that to Chelsea, once in pre-season and once in the league, and I think you'd be forgiven to looking at the pre-season game and going, it is just pre-season. But it's the caliber of the players he's playing against, and he just. Again, he doesn't look overawed. He looks like he fits. He looks like he belongs at that level already. And usually you've got to wait 2 or 3 years before you start to see that come out of the place. The great ones, the likes of Rooney,
Gerrard as well when he made his appearance and stuff.
Yeah, they Owen as well when he was sort of 17. They look like they belong on the biggest stage from day one, and Louie Miley does. He absolutely looks like he belongs on that stage. Going back to the goal, and I don't think anybody's really picked up on this yet, but can we just have a moment of appreciation for the control as that ball gets floated in from Kieran Trippier from the right? The control that Anthony Gordon has with the back of his head
Yeah,
It's
I'm not sure he
absolutely
really meant that, mate.
I don't think
a
so.
bit lucky.
I watched it again earlier, and I hadn't spotted it the first sort of 3 or 4 times I watched the goal. And I looked at it and went, he ducks down and the ball just bounces off the top. It's almost this brilliant cushioned play where he just brings the ball down. He obviously runs on after it, and that the rest is history. But that was just, I watched it again, and I think I've watched that bit about 4 or 5 times again. It's just brilliant. So we need to give Anthony Gordon some props for that, because I thought that was excellent.
Listen, Gordon's going to get plenty of props in a bit, especially not just for what he did on the pitch, but what he did when somebody was off the pitch as well, which was absolutely superb, to be fair. But I mean, going back to obviously Louie Miley, because he is getting all the plaudits, and rightly so, to be fair. So Louie Miley has joined the list of youngest assist makers. As you can see, some of the names that are up there. I mean, some of them make you go, what? You got Jordan Ibe and Nigel Quasi, but you're talking about Wayne Rooney's up there. Aaron Lennon, who was a real player when he was at Leeds, when he burst through, he was absolutely brilliant. Phil Foden's up there, Aaron Ramsey, Theo Walcott. There's some real players up there. And for 17 years old, for Louie Miley to join that list. I remember when we signed Genus when he was he 18, Genus from Forest, I think? And I remember this skinny little beanpole kid coming to play for Newcastle. I remember him playing against Vieira one game. And I thought we had a superstar in the making there, really did, because he bossed Vieira in that game. He went toe-to-toe with him at 18, and everyone was thinking, Jesus Christ, what could this kid be? Miley kind of reminds me a bit of what I saw with Genus back then. Even though he was 18, he was way beyond his years. I mean, hopefully has a better career. He's not hosting the fucking One Show by the time he's 30 odd or something like that. I'm sure he will, to be fair to the kid, because he seems to have his head screwed on. But I think to have that composure, I mean, this is a kid who's played against City in the Cup. He's made his debut at home against Chelsea, St James's. He's bossed them. He's been come off the bench against Dortmund. He's going to start probably against PSG in the Parc des Princes tomorrow. And the more big game exposure you get for these kids, we saw it with the class of '92, Mark. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And I really do think all these big games for this lad are just going to help his development even more, man.
Yeah, it's always an odd thing in England, isn't it? Where you get these players that come through every now and again. And so many people say it's too early to throw them in. It's far too early. You've only got to look at the likes of and 2 goalkeepers straight off the bat, the likes of Casillas and Donnarumma, who broke through into the first team at such a young age. But you go back to the likes of Rooney and Owen and stuff. Who, look, if you're good enough, you play. I don't care how old you are. You have to be given the time to develop your game in and amongst the best players at the club. And he's obviously doing that in training. He's showing now in games that he can do it. And he has to stay there. I mean, I'm not saying he has to start every game. I don't think that will be the way to do it. There will be games that don't suit him right now. But I definitely think he deserves a lot more game time now that we've seen exactly what he can do. He will be, I genuinely believe he will be absolutely special. And it just goes to show to be on that list as well. When you look at, is it obviously Cesc on that list too?
Yeah, Fabregas. I forgot Fabregas. Fucking hell, he's there as well.
Fabregas has 111 or something assists in the Premier League for both Arsenal and Chelsea. Look, if he can get anywhere near that, what a stellar career he's going to have had. So he's kind of almost the yardstick at this point to go and see what he can do in this league. But the signs are really, really promising for him. He does look just such a special talent.
He does. I mean, people have been talking about him, I think, waxing lyrically about him for a long time in the youth setup. We don't know as much about the youth team as a lot of other people would do. But I have heard people talking about this kid for a long time, even before he come on the scene. I did hear that. I did laugh. Somebody put a statistic actually and said he was 13 in the first lockdown, which scared the shit out of me. We just think, oh my God, how young is he? You know what I mean? But I think he was born after she was testimony. I was at the game. You're thinking, fucking hell. But yeah, people have been waxing lyrically about the potential the lad has. And that probably is testament to his raw ability, because our academy's not been great over the last few years. It's only really been the last couple of years that started probably investing in it a lot more. We have struggled a bit, I think, to entice players. Not many of them wanted to have a bath in a wheelie bin or sit in the paddling pool out in the grass under the Ashley era. So I do think that, to pick a player up like this and have him in the academy and, and get him to a level where he is as good as he is. And he's only going to get better with great coaching like Eddie Howe. And like I said, I've said it before, I'm not bringing it back to Matty Longstaff, but I'm quite gutted for Matty Longstaff that he hasn't come through now under this coach, because I think we would have been able to harness that raw ability that Matty had, when he burst onto the scene against Manchester United. It's a real shame for Matty. I hope he does move on and, have a good career somewhere else. But I think for Miley, I honestly do think Miley has the potential to be probably one of the best that we've had. I mean, if you think about the last genuine star that we've had from the academy, and this might sound harsh to Sean. Sean's a really good player, but the last genuine player that come out of our academy that people went, wow, was probably Andy Carroll. When he become that beast centre forward, and especially that first half of the Premier League that made Liverpool pay 35 million quid from. I generally think that Miley could be that next one, that next big wow player that's come through our academy with the right coach and the right development, and as you said, Mark, players around him. Like, I think I said it in the post-match, Bruno and Joe were like two big brothers looking after him on a night out. You know what I mean? Like, anytime somebody tried to rough him up, they were just flying in and rattling people, and you were just thinking, that's what you want. If you think back to, Beckham and Scholes and those players playing for Manchester United, there was a Roy Keane or a Paul Ince or a Brian Robson or somebody just rattling a player that was trying it on with them. And you need the senior players to look after him. And just a bit on Bruno as well, actually. Everyone's probably seen it. I absolutely love Bruno. If you don't love Bruno already, you've got to love him for this. The BBC Newcastle were interviewing him, and they obviously asked about Louie Miley. And he said, Louie Miley's a superstar. He said, when I was 17, I was shit. Which is just, you got to love Bruno for that, man. Just the honesty, mate. Oh, I'm not talking about Sammy Amiobi, mate. Come on. He had a couple of moments, Simon. Come on. Sammy Amiobi. Mind you, he was there. And yeah, I'm not talking about back in those days, Ronald. Gaza was definitely the standout best player probably the academy's ever produced, really. Arguably him and Beardsley. I know Beardsley moved on and then came back, but him and Beardsley probably the best two that we've ever produced. But that was back when we used to produce good players before the big teams started snapping them up, didn't they, really? If you think about likes of Carrick, Mark, and even Shearer going away to Southampton,
well, they weren't given a chance, were they? But this was back at a time when Newcastle's academy, or it wasn't even academy, was it? The youth setup was dreadful. And those players...
Behave. Come on. Sorry, Mark.
Stevie Taylor with the best shot by a sniper impression I've ever seen in my entire life. But but like, those players at a time where Newcastle were dreadful at looking after their young players, at scouting young players. The natural path for them was to go elsewhere. And there's a reason why the likes of Shearer walks away from Wallsend and goes to enter Southampton, because there was no route into Newcastle. They weren't good enough to pick these players up and develop them. Now is the time. It's taken so long to you get the odd one that will come through. Now is the time for that to really grow, and the building the structure around that to really develop the young players that are in the area, to the young players that they can then bring in from elsewhere as well, and maybe go and poach these players from other areas, because that's what's been missing massively.
Yeah. And Anderson's another one as well. We kind of overlook him. He's another great local talent that we'll manage to get as well, to be fair. That's a great start, that tie. He's only 6 years older than the mascot he walked on with. I think that's absolutely mint. I love that. Absolutely love it. The Mighty Win says he has to start every game at the minute. To be honest with you, I don't disagree with that. I mean, let's see how he does tomorrow, which we'll come on to in a minute. But if he bosses it tomorrow, Mark, fucking hell, I can't see anybody getting in ahead of him, to be honest with you. After that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the worry is at the moment that he isn't fully developed. He is only 17, so he's got a lot of sort of strength and conditioning to go in building up, his stature and his physicality in the game. So playing him too much is a worry. You don't want to have him play 20, 25 games on the spin, because he will probably break down more quickly. And yeah, exactly. He'll need time to recover. He'll need games off. He'll need to be able to maybe come off in games from the bench and things like that. But like I said, if he's good enough, he plays. He's going to play more often than not, I think, certainly over the next couple of years. He's brilliant.
I do love that comment from Simon. The bench did look like Louie brought his mates from sixth form along for a kick around. Yeah, that is very true, Simon. Very true.
I saw somebody post earlier on X that I think the two lads that came on were both born after the PS3 came out or something like that. And I just sat there and just went, oh God, I feel even more old now. It just
that's so scary. That's so scary. So scary. I mean, speaking of benches, actually, you know, before we get into the guy who scored the goal that Louie Miley passed the great ball to, this was just a little great, interesting statistic. So I mean, a lot of the mainstream media had us losing this game the weekend. I don't know why, because Chelsea haven't been great shakes. To be fair, they had two, you know, decent results, if you will, against Spurs, who completely fell off the map, and Man City. But this was the bench difference between the two sides of the weekend, Mark. I mean, the Chelsea bench cost 270 million. I mean, they brought Mudryk on, and I mean, that guy is a fucking hell, honestly. Somebody is over in Ukraine, you know, fighting in that war, who is the real Mudryk, and this kid's just snuck over here and pretended to be Mudryk, because he doesn't look like an 80 million pound winger to me. He looks fucking terrible. He really, really does. Their bench was 270 million quid. Our bench was 15 million. I mean, that we beat them 4-1.
Yeah, and it had three. What was it? Three goalkeepers,
Three
four
keepers,
and a couple of old age pensioners on there as well. And it was 12 of that 15 was Matt Ritchie or something, wasn't it? Or 10 of that 15 was Matt Ritchie.
I do think so. Yeah,
I mean, it's just incredible the amount of money that's in that squad, and they were so poor. You're right, Mudryk is an awful footballer at the moment.
Dreadful.
Whether or not he will get better, he doesn't look like it. He has flashes. He's got loads of pace. He's got loads of trickery. He's got no end product at all.
And he's a whingy faced little twat as well, isn't he? He just moans like fuck all the time, doesn't he? What a bell end he is, honestly. I'd go right through him if I was a fullback. I'd take him out thigh height, I really would, just to watch him roll like a little bitch that he is. I can't bear him. I hate players like that. Drive me up the fucking wall. I really do.
To be fair, most of their plays were a lot like that on Saturday. That the free kick that was given for the foul on Raheem Sterling that led to their goal. It is not a foul. I mean, it's on the same lines as I don't know whether you saw the City goal that was disallowed for the arm from Nathan Ake on.
Oh no, I've never seen that one.
Alisson.
I missed one.
I mean, it's the barest of touches. He barely lays a finger on him, and the goal's chalked off. But for that one, I mean, Trippier, yeah, he shouldn't put his hand where he does, but he hardly touches him.
Sterling did go down easily, didn't he? Yeah, he did go down easily.
He definitely does that a lot. And we saw second half as well where he dives for the penalty. How the fuck is that not a yellow card, by the way?
Yeah. No,
where's the yellow cards gone for diving for these things? It's another one that really pisses you off, because I mean, he's got form for it anyway. But I mean, that's as blatant a dive as there is. There's no way that was a foul. I'm sorry, that should have been a book in it. That was their only option, was to try and do things like that, because Chelsea was so far off the pace, and this because Newcastle were just so good. And apart from, there was a 5-minute spell after that, the equaliser, Chelsea were not allowed to sniff. Newcastle dominated, and that midfield bossed it completely. As I put in the title of this, it comes down to obviously a 17-year-old lad bossing £100 million midfielders, but the other two as well. Let's not forget those in this, because Bruno was, well, he had no I think those headline grabbing moments or anything. He was fantastic. His ability on the ball, he moved around, he got in people's faces, he closed well, he used the ball, he didn't give it away. And Joe Linton was brilliant as well, apart from the header, which...
Well, let's not talk about that. let's not remind ourselves of that.
Those three were just brilliant. Brilliant.
No, absolutely. But somebody else who was brilliant when he needed to be was Alexander Isak. And, you know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, certainly in the Bournemouth game, I think, as well. The lack of a centre forward. And it was so obvious how much we were missing a centre forward, a focal point. You know, we have got two brilliant centre forwards. That goal to game ratio is unbelievable. It really is. You know, their movement, their prowess in front of goal, their ability is unquestionable. I think when they're fit, we've arguably got two of the best centre forwards in the league in terms of, you know, the ability to chop and change one for the other. Very different type of players. They can play together as well. But I do think that, individually they're fantastic. But Isak come back from being out, Mark. We didn't think he was going to start when we did the preview. A lot of people probably didn't either. He started the game. He looked a little bit rusty in the first kind of few minutes. I think he gets a chance where he should volley and he doesn't take it. But when he needed to be, the quick feet was there with the pass from Miley, and he put the ball in the back of the net. He's probably going to start against PSG tomorrow. And it just gives us a completely different dynamic. Even in the Champions League games where Wilson has played, he's not Isak, is he? Isak has that ability to just peel off people's shoulders and just cause so much damage. I mean, people are talking about Mbappe. I watched Paris Saint-Germain concede 2 really shit goals against Monaco. Yeah, they battered them 5-2. But I was looking, thinking, if Alexander Isak's on that pitch, you lot are in trouble there. There's gaps there for him to find. And it's great to see him back, mate, isn't it?
It is. And yeah, you go back to the Bournemouth game, and I said right then, that passing sort of graph that I brought up, it showed that the focal point in that game, there just wasn't one. There was nobody that was the player that led the line. As much as Gordon or Joelinton tried to do their best in that, they're not centre forwards. They're not going to be able to do that. And in games where you are struggling to really keep the ball and put pressure on the centre backs, and the way Bournemouth play, they utilise their centre backs really, really well. You come into the Chelsea game, and there's that point of the attack, isn't there, where Isak's running either at those defenders or pulling them away, and he just drops into spaces, like you said. He can, where the defenders are split, he can find the gaps between them. He pulls left, he pulls right, he can go through the middle. He's got the pace to trouble them one-on-one as well, and especially up against the like of Silva, where, I mean, Silva's 63 now. He's knocking on a bit. He hasn't got the pace there, and it shows that he then forces you into mistakes. And another mistake comes from him, particularly later on with Joelinton's goal. But it's those players around with the ability to press and really put those defenders under pressure that causes those mistakes. But Isak's ability to do that is fantastic, because he just, when he's fit and firing, he doesn't stop running. He may not always get the ball, but he's always pulling defenders around, and his pace and his trickery is deadly. You know, the number of Premier League defenders he's made absolute fools of with the ball at his feet, because it's attached to him with elastic. Like I say, that focal point, having a striker in there that can do something like that is worth its weight in gold, and especially for this side where you have to lead from the front in that press.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, mate, to be honest with you. But I just think that there was another player that was brilliant as well, which was Anthony Gordon. We'll get into his performance for being absolutely brilliant. But as you mentioned, Silva and his legs going, which I did say in the preview, and I was proven to be right, certainly with that third goal. There was a weird moment in the game where I think Silva forgot he was 46 or something like that, and he tried to do something quite cocky and skillful against one of the fastest players in the league, who presses relentlessly like a fucking wasp buzzing around your pint of lager in the beer garden. And he totally lost the ball, made a cock of himself, and Anthony Gordon decided to respond in kind by just pointing at him and having a bit of a laugh, which I thought was brilliant. The confidence of Gordon just to point and laugh at a World Cup. How many caps does he have for Brazil? Has he won the World Cup? He probably has. Champions League, centre-half. He's been a brilliant player. He's definitely fading. But just for Gordon to do that, mate, it just sums up the confidence the lad's got at the minute. I mean, I saw Carragher was talking about him tonight on Sky, how he should be in the England squad. For me, he should be a shoo-in for an England squad. I'm astounded he's not there. I think in 12 games now, he's got 5 goals and 3 assists. He's the first name on the team sheet, I think, Mark, right now, in a black and white shirt. He really is. He's that important, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much epitomises an Eddie Howe Newcastle, doesn't he? He's a wasp is a good description, and funny enough, you got described as waspish earlier.
I did, yeah. But the first, come on, get it right. The first half of it was nice. They said sharp and witty, then they said waspish. Come on, don't cut out the nice bits. You just go straight for the wasp.
But Gordon, he does have that in him, doesn't he? He's got nastiness to his
yes,
game.
that shithouse streak in him. He's got that as well, and I love that.
He will never stop running. He's a little bit like Miggy the other side, but a lot more. He has a lot more dark arts to his game than Miggy.
Aggressive. He's got the aggression. Yeah, Miggy's just very smiley, isn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wish Gordon would cut out the rolling around, and that he does go down particularly easily at times, and I think that might bite him at times. But the way he gets stuck in, the way he runs at players, he pressures it. Like I say, it epitomizes this Newcastle side because of this really high press, this high intensity football that Eddie Howe has them playing. He's perfect in that role, and down that left hand side, he terrorizes defenders because he just won't stop, and he makes good players look average. And a lot of fans around the country have kind of sat back, and Chelsea fans as well. Chelsea fans that looked at it and couldn't believe that they were bidding for him, and look at him and go, "Shit, I wish we got him now."
45 million quid's a bargain for that kid.
Absolute snap.
It really is.
But he was brilliant. He took his goal really, really well. And funny enough, I sort of was in the process of sending you a message in the first half saying he's taking one touch too many in that first half, and he's prone to do that at times where he sort of overthinks it and tries to take that final touch before he does something rather than just instinctively play the ball or shoot. Second half, he didn't do that, and you see that from the ball that he plays in for Lascelles' header, which by the way was a brilliant header.
Did you text Eddie instead of me, and that's why he changed the game plan?
I might have done. But it was that moment where he just shifts the ball, and the first half he would have taken a touch just to steady himself and see what was there. It was instinctive second half, and he played the ball, and the goal as well where he cuts in, and as he cuts back, you can almost see the thought process going as soon as I've switched this is going in.
Yeah,
he doesn't then, and you've seen from previous ones where he cuts back, he just tries to take that extra touch. And like I say, second half he was brilliant because he didn't do that. Everything was on instinct, and it opened up so many channels for him. And he ran down. He got the free kick that ultimately led to James getting sent off, which was given his previous comments about playing at St James's Park was tremendous in itself.
Yeah, well, it was quite funny. I've got to give a big honourable shout out to that. I think was this Max Pye on X. I think it might have been, possibly because he's quite a genius with that. And somebody decided to mock up Jacob Murphy doing the wave at Reece James, who was utterly shit, by the way. I said it in the post match. Overrated. He falls into the same category as the Pogba scenario for me. People always used to say Jack Wilshere was overrated. And I always thought there was a player in Wilshere. I do not see what the big hype is with Reece James. I really don't. He barely plays. He's made of fucking glass. I think the only time he actually played a consecutive run of games, he was at Derby County on loan or something like that. He's way down the pecking order for the right back in my position. When you got Walker, Trips, Trent, he's way behind that. He's miles away. And you've got Livramento coming through. Honourable mention to Livramento, Mark, before we move on to the game tomorrow. Livramento was sensational, I thought. Again, at left back, he just doesn't let you down. He was giving you an option going forward. He was great coming back. He put one of them brilliant recovery challenges in. He has no right to make whatsoever because his pace just gets him there. And he looks so comfortable at left back. I mean, I really want Lewis Hall to succeed at Newcastle because I really think there's a player there. And I love what Dan Burn does. But listen, if Tino's going to fill in like that at left back, and he'll play tomorrow, and if he has a great game tomorrow at left back, mate, he could make that position his own, couldn't he?
Yeah, look, he could. It's weird, isn't it? Because before he signed, there were loads of people that were saying that.
Me too, mate. I was saying why they were signing him. What did we need him? We didn't need him, did we?
There was that, but also there were loads of people that were saying, look, he can play left back. He can play left back, and I was one that was said, well, when's he done it? Because he'd not done it at this level. He'd not shown anything that he could. He'd been fantastic at right back, but he'd not shown playing at left back, and he's just shown the ability to just. He's a bloody good
so versatile.
at the end of the day.
So versatile, man.
And I think he is absolutely the ready-made replacement for Kieran Trippier when Kieran Trippier
100%.
decides to hang up his boots or move on or move into the backroom staff or whatever happens there. But I think we'll see Trippier start to wind down over the next 18 months or so.
Yeah.
But Livramento is ready-made to do that and can play left and right. It kind of goes in his favour for England because, well,
Graham's just saying that he could be a late entry. You know,
absolutely right. He's genuinely that good, and I think he's a better defending right back than Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's a whole other story with the comments that came out over the weekend about him.
We'll not get to that one. Yeah.
You know, Kyle Walker, I think, is the standout right back in the league. Really, Kieran Trippier's on that level, and then you look at who's next, and in terms of getting both forward and back, I think Livramento's in that shout. Trent is exceptional going forward. He's brilliant with the ball at his feet, but he can't defend to save his life. Livramento can, but also Livramento has now shown that he can give you versatility by playing left and right, just as Kieran Trippier. So if Trippier does decide to hang up his international boots, for example, then you've got a ready-made replacement there as well in that regard too.
Absolutely, but we'll push on because we've got loads of Out of Toons tonight. Honestly, the banter bus does get filled with the Out of Toons tonight. But we have got a comment there. I'll just about pull up. You just clicked it away. Ty has donated in the super chat. It's £5 towards our Christmas drinks. Thank you so much, Ty. We really appreciate that. Mark drinks like a fish. That probably won't go very far, but we'll try our best. I'm only joking, Ty.
Hey.
Really, really generous of you, mate. Really generous of you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Russ is just mentioning there. I think the boy from Man U looked good, didn't he? Kobe Manu looked good at the weekend. Garnacho's over there. Kick was sensational, really. But yeah, Miley and Hall definitely give us some excitement, you know, in terms of the future. Russ, you know, as does Livramento as well. You know what I mean? We've got some real exciting talent coming through. People forget Isak is still young and Botman's still young. Do you know what I mean? So we've got so much coming through. It's really exciting times. I think Newcastle could definitely dominate for years to come. But moving on to tomorrow, obviously we did our preview today. Came out this morning. Most of you guys probably watched it. Huge game, Mark, tomorrow. You know, for me, if we don't win, we're probably out of Europe. Is it necessarily a bad thing if we are or not? How do you view it? Obviously, we want to win, but
yeah,
you know.
I think that there's definitely the two ways of looking at it. Is you want to win because you want to continue the Champions League journey, and I think that's a fair call. But if the worst is to happen tomorrow, do you want the Europa League? Do you want to then go and beat Milan at home in the last game and get into that Thursday, Sunday sort of routine?
That is a tough slog, that.
Which I've never quite understood the massive hate for doing that, because I don't understand what the difference is between Wednesday, Saturday. So the number of days between the games is exactly the same. But there we go. I think it's just about timings of games and stuff like that. But I think there's an element that you wants to go, yes, let's get through to the next round and go for it and see what happens. But then the alternative is, with the injury crisis, the less games, the better almost, and keep that fight up for the top 4, top 5 this season. I'm not saying you want to go out and lose tomorrow and have that journey end. It's not the end of the world, but you want to be in it. I think going in and seeing what happens next, the amount of money that comes in from sponsorships and from games and stuff like that it will be incredible. And you never know in knockout. You know, when you get to sort of knockout football, anything could happen. We've seen it. We go back to like Leeds getting to the semi-finals back when they were flying. So this, you know, anything can happen in that regard. But it is a huge game, and I think PSG will be looking for a little bit of retribution for what happened at St James's Park, but I think they're vulnerable. Like you said, they do have gaps in their defence, which Newcastle can exploit. They're not used to coming up against sides, particularly obviously in France, that have this high intensity, high press system. French teams don't do it, or not many of them are capable of doing it. And we also know that when PSG do struggle, they crumble. So if Newcastle can get an early goal, or they can keep the crowd on the backs of the PSG players, then they start to struggle in their own game. They start blaming each other for things. You see the likes of Mbappe completely loses focus. He loses his positive attitude, like he did at St James's Park, where he just strolls around. There's definitely something there for Newcastle tomorrow, and I do think that there'll be a result there.
Yeah, I did laugh at Mbappe. He was wrapped up like he was trekking to the Antarctic, I think, in the training session. I could barely recognise it was him. He had a snood and a blanket and everything on, and a bloody neckerchief and everything, for God's sake. But yeah, I mean, we are training at their stadium, which is a new thing. Eddie didn't do that previously, so he was asked about that a lot in the press conference. I watched it earlier, and he said he just wanted to try something a little bit different, I think, in terms of training and getting a feel for the grass. And it would be a masterstroke if this turns out getting us the result. It'll almost be like Eddie Howe, the genius, once again, really. But him and Nick Pope were up in front of the cameras, and obviously they conducted themselves really well. But yeah, it's nice that we're training at the ground, I think, to get a bit of a feel for it, get a bit of an understanding of it, maybe check whatever areas are kind of, the thick grass one area, or maybe a slant here or there, or if there's an incline on the pitch, a bit like at St James's. So I think it is a good thing to do with train there, because you get a good feel for it, and you get a good feel for the space of the grass. People say, it's a big pitch and stuff, and people think they're talking shit, but it is true. Grounds are very, very different. They're built on different kind of inclines and everything else as well. So I think it's a really, really good idea. We've got a comment there from is that ex Ghetto 24? He thinks Paris will avenge the first leg. There's the context that it's a home game. We're good at home, winning 4-1 like you did in the first leg. So you must be a PSG fan. Thanks for jumping in the comments, mate. Always welcome here. I think it will be a tough game. I think you're right. I think Paris Saint-Germain will definitely want some revenge against us. Their supporters certainly will want some revenge, because they were battered at St James, and they didn't turn up at all. They didn't turn up whatsoever. I think they rocked up to town and they thought, we'll beat Newcastle, the shit. And at their peril, obviously, because they caught Newcastle at their pressing intense best, and they couldn't deal with it. But I did watch the highlights of them against Monaco, Mark, and they look like they've got a little bit zip about them. And Dembele scored an absolute world. He looked really sharp. Mbappe got a pen. Ramos was in the action as well. So it is going to be, I think, a tough game. And hi from France, says Ghetto. Hi from you. Bonjour to you, Ghetto. Thank you so much for joining the comments. But yeah, I think it is going to be a tough game. This is the kind of game you wanted to play in the Champions League, isn't it? You wanted to be at the Parc des Princes like this, to, the destiny's in your own hand. The group of death, is hanging by a thin thread, really, isn't it, Mark? If either one of those teams draw and the other one wins, you could bump yourself up from bottom to second, couldn't you, quite easily, with a result?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, it's one of those where a defeat, they're out. It's obviously, Dortmund get anything out of their game too. I think that's done and dusted, isn't it? So, yeah, I do think there's a result there. I think that PSG are good at home. Ghetto's absolutely right in that regard. Obviously, as a fan, you'll know that more than we do. But I still do think that there are vulnerabilities in that side, and like I say, we've seen it in the Champions League before, when things don't quite go their way. They do have this tendency to crumble at times. So, but on their day, they're absolutely exceptional. And if you catch Mbappe and the likes on their best day, it's going to be really, really tough. And it could be a long night. It really could. But I genuinely just think there's a result there.
Well, I think we have to defend resolutely, I think, and that back four, like I say, with Tino, Trippier looked brilliant again on the weekend. I thought that rest really did him the world of good, I think. And he looked so sharp again, and, Cher looked great as well. Lascelles was great when he sticks to what he's good at. When he tries to go maraud and runs like he's Botman and Cher, gets himself in a bit of trouble. So I really hope he doesn't do too much of that. Yeah, I'm all for headers, which was brilliant, Jamal, but try not to run with the ball too much. But we're solid at the back. And I think if we defend resolutely and Nick Pope doesn't have any more crazy kicks that go straight to an opposing player, we'll be good. And with that midfield works well. Even with Miley in there, from what we saw, Bruno and Joe on top of their game of the weekend. And if they do the same thing and get rattling in amongst, there's no love lost between Ugarte and our Brazilian boys either. There's a bit of fucking needle there. So then there's going to be a few tackles going in that performance. But then up front, we are just as dangerous as they are, I feel, with our pace and our movement with Isak, Gordon and Miggy. That PSG defense will be on their toes with them three because they've got pace, they've got movement, they've got quality. So we are no slouches going at this game. This is not an easy ride for PSG, but we have to hold it tight. We have to defend resolutely, I think, Mark, and keep it tight at the back, and try to catch them maybe on a break early on. If we can get a goal or two in front, they may crumble again. You never know. They may think, oh, not again, and we could just get into the heads. But it's going to be a really good game. My worry is not the starting 11. It's if we have to go to the bench, that's my worry. You know what I mean? It's just I'd be worried who would bring on. I love that from Mark. What price Miley to score? Jesus, Mark, could you imagine that week the boys had? Imagine rattling a 20 on screaming off the bar at the Parc de France as well. Fucking hell, man. Just wow. What a player. What a player. But I actually want it now, Mark. You've said that in the comments. I want it. But yeah, what do you think, Mark? In terms of off the bench, there's nobody really, is there? A bunch of kids. You know what I mean? It's a worry, isn't it, if anyone has to come off the bench?
It is. I mean, it was almost like that on Saturday as well. You looked at the bench and went, the 11 have to do the job. That starting 11 has to be the ones that do the job first and get you over the line, because you can't go to the likes of Richie and for all they come in and do a little bit of a job, but the kids just aren't going to be at that level. They're not quite ready for that level of game, I don't think, yet. So you are reliant on who starts. I don't know if there's anybody due back. I know you touched on maybe I don't think we're going to see anybody. I think
Sean hasn't travelled. I think it's just going to be the same side. I think the comment there about Ian saying is can Nduine and Diallo play? I think they're young enough that they don't have to be registered, isn't it? Because if you're younger than 19, is that right? You don't have to be registered to play, I think, if you're younger than 19. Or did they have to be registered in the Champions League?
No, I think the kids don't need to be.
No.
So they should. I think they should be all right to be on the bench. Right. Otherwise, I mean, you're really struggling for numbers, aren't you? So it could be. I'm just while you're talking, I've been looking up to try and find it. Is there a price on it? I think Miley is an 8-time goal scorer. Is that 7-1?
7-1. That's low odds, isn't
it? Something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. You're on his first goal scorer on Bet365. I've got it. Yeah, 20-1.
Yeah, that's worth the double. That's worth the double. Bet responsibly, but I'd have a bite of that. Yeah, Ian saying that do they need to qualify as homegrown? I think they might do, possibly. We'd have to look into that, I think, guys. To be honest with you, we're not entirely sure on our Champions League homegrown knowledge, but
it's been so long since I had to focus on it. Really, I don't really know.
It's a good excuse. It is a good excuse, Normally we're talking about fucking Rotherham away in the League Cup or something like that, which we'll probably get put out in. So it's been a long time to worry about the Champions League. But yeah, it's going to be a really exciting game. We're going to be back with a live post match on Tuesday night. So come and join us in the comments. As always, guys, it'll be good to hopefully talk about a great result for Newcastle. And listen, win, lose or draw, we'll be there. Evermore will be there. So come and join us in the comments and have a good chin wag about Newcastle United. But moving on to the last section of that, as we always do, Mark, Out of Toon. We've got loads of Out of Toons tonight. Some absolute corkers. I'm going to start with my personal favourite, which we've just put in. And I'm going to say it's my personal favourite because Lewis Dunk used one of my favourite insults of all time, which I use on a regular basis. Now, if you didn't see this already, everybody, this was the Brighton-Nottingham Forest game where Lewis Dunk, I think, did he get a yellow card? I think initially, Mark, and then he wasn't very happy with Anthony Taylor, and he did that kind of thing that a lot of us do when you're not happy with somebody, and you just look, you pause for thought, and you say, "You fucking bellend," right? And normally in everyday life, most people just go, "Oh, fuck you, mate," and they walk away, or could end up in a fight and a boozer. But in a football pitch, Normally, you get away with it because the ref can't hear you. Oh, no, 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 no. In this case, Anthony Taylor turned around, scrapped the yellow, brandished the red, and the best bit was the clip of the other Brighton player saying,
Van Heck, wasn't it? That came. What's that been given for?
And he said, he called me a fucking bellend. And it was the funniest clip I've ever seen. And he's now going to have a 2-match ban. The first player to have a ban for insulting the referee, Mark. What do you think? Is Anthony Taylor just being a little bit too precious here? Or do you think he's got a point?
It is, but do you know who the last player to get sent off for insulting the referee was?
I do. And I know who he played for. It was Alan Smith for Newcastle.
It was.
Yeah. It was against Manchester United.
I believe it may have been 2009, I want to say.
Maybe when he was playing midfield.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible one that I read. But yeah, I mean, Lewis Dunkers just said what we're all feeling. Anthony Taylor is a bellend.
He is a bellend.
But yeah, look, you can have your opinion about a decision. You just can't say things like that. And
no,
I think Darren Bent was on TalkSport earlier on saying, you know, he thought it was a joke and stuff. But I'm sorry, you just can't. And that's such a bad example if anybody hears that. And there's others have said since it's happened that there's been sort of at times more of a crackdown on this at youth football, and that's the kind of thing that does spread because you see that happen. We can joke about it because I think it's hilarious, but it has kind of a darker side to it. That look, he deserves a red card for it, because you just can't do that. Yes, you can F and Jeff, and the referees aren't going to send you off for swearing, saying that's fucking ridiculous or whatever. You cannot call it. You cannot make it personal. As funny as it is, he does deserve the red card.
Well, to be fair, from the ridiculous to the sublime, this fella was breaking records again, Jude Bellingham. I did actually watch a little bit of the Real Madrid game, and he's just, I mean, the kid is unbelievable. He just strolls around the pitch like he just owns it, you know. So Jude Bellingham has now beaten Cristiano Ronaldo's record at Real Madrid for his first 15 games, 14 goals. He's a midfielder, Mark. I mean, how amazing is this lad, man? I mean, he just seems to get better every single fucking game, doesn't he? Look at the players he's beat. He's beat Ronaldo and Di Stefano, who's like two club legends, you know, and he's a midfielder. It's unbelievable.
He's phenomenal. The other stat they got from that is that at Dortmund it was 14 goals in 42 games.
Wow. Fucking hell, that is unbelievable, man.
The kid has grown up. And
that's a player who's progressing. That's a player who's getting better and better and better, isn't it?
And it's that building block again, isn't it? Of using Dortmund to kind of further your game, and they've proved that they can develop players from a young age. We've seen it so many times with players that go through there when they're young. Haaland being one as well. Sancho, I think, could probably do that if he ever gets back to playing again. But they utilise Dortmund because they've got such a good record at doing this. And he's flourished at Madrid. He's unbelievably good. And to beat those two, particularly in terms of number of goals in that start for him, it is ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, Job's a decent player as well. And I think
he plays that shit team down the road, though. That's the problem with him. Bad judgment, Job.
I don't think he's going to be on the quite the same level as Jude, but he's going to be a decent player as well, and I can see him getting a fairly decent move at some point in the future if he continues his development as well.
No, as long as he plays for them lot, I will go to my Scottish roots and call him Jobby. I won't call him Joe. I'll call him Jobby, which is shite in Scottish if you don't know that, anybody watching. So yeah, he needs to leave that shit club. I think he probably will do fairly soon, in all fairness. But there was some sad news as well in the world of football, actually, just to slightly break away from the humour in the Out of Toon. We all heard the news, I think, over the weekend, that the sad passing of Terry Venables, the former England manager, Barcelona manager, won the first league title in years for Barcelona, won the FA Cup with Spurs, a real character of the game, Mark. I mean, you and I remember Euro 96 really well for two obvious reasons, me being a Scottish fan at the time and you being an English fan. But you know, Venables was a great manager, a real charismatic character as well. I've listened to Shearer and Lineker talking so, affectionately about him on their podcast, The Rest is Football. And a real sad loss, mate. I mean, he struggled with an illness long term, and a real sad loss, for the game, I think, as well. He seemed like a real character to me.
Yeah, I mean, England fans absolutely adore him. I think he's played certainly in my life, but I think the best football I think England have ever played.
I think so. That '96 tournament, England was sensational under Venables, man.
Yeah, in my for my 42 years now that I've just hit, that he definitely managed the best looking England side in terms of the way that they play. '96, we were a Gaza stud away from getting to the final. We played some brilliant football. That game against Holland was one of the best games I've seen England play. I think you can put that right alongside the Germany game. He was a character. I mean, he did so much other than football, didn't he?
Nightclub owner, singer.
He wrote books. I think he wrote a TV show.
He did.
He was just, but genuinely, you listen to people talk. He's just a genuinely lovely bloke, and he's sadly missed. And I think I said to you when this came out that he's the third one now of like since I was watching football that I can remember. That's my first three
England managers. Yeah, gone. Yeah,
Bobby, Graham Taylor, and now I'll tell that have all gone.
Really sad.
It's just a sign of you getting on, and it is really sad. I mean, again, he's only 80. I genuinely didn't know he was ill either. So that's been kept when, and it's awful. It is really sad. It's one of those, and they creep up on you, don't they? And they do bite, and the thing particularly because of just those fond memories of '96. And I genuinely wish we'd managed to keep him on as England manager for longer than that couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Simon's saying that he was 19 in 1996. He's got amazing memories of that summer in the pub watching us dismantle Holland, Gaza's masterclass versus Scotland. Great music as the soundtrack as well. Nostalgia man, R.I.P. Tell. Absolutely, I do agree with that, Simon. It was a brilliant tournament. As Mark says there, Terry Venables' side was worth watching. In terms of even if you weren't an England supporter, they played such great stuff. Players, big players as well. I think Shearer said the team full of captains, but they all listened to him. And they respected him for, the manager that he was. And, as Mark says there, you were Gaza stood away from getting that final, which England would have won easily. He lost a penalty shootout in the European Cup final with Barca. He would have won Barcelona's first European Cup, and he's already had some brilliant, praise and everything else thrown at him, by former players. Pep Guardiola said some lovely things about him earlier as well, because of how important he was for Barcelona's journey as well. So yeah, rest in peace, Tell, a real good manager, and sounds like a really good guy as well. So he will be missed. But moving on from a great manager to maybe a not so great manager over the years. But listen, he has got a new job. So we wanted to talk about this. Because it's great to see him back in work. It is, because we don't want to see anybody. It's a cost of living crisis. It's really difficult for people these days. So let's all just give Steve Bruce a round of applause for getting a job as the new area manager of Kentucky Fried Chicken, as you can see there with his Colonel Sanders suit and tie. Well, finger licking good. There's nothing better than a bucket with some gravy. Oh, very nice. Obviously we jest. That is the Rotherham owner who was likened to Steve Bruce all over social media, because he did bear a scary resemblance. So it was like Colonel Sanders and Steve Bruce had a baby. That's what it would look like. That's frightening. That is scary thought. That is a scary thought. Absolutely. Yeah, Ian's got in the comments already with that one.
Oh,
yeah,
tremendous.
Absolutely. That was frightening to say the least. But moving on to some better stories. Obviously the debut of Francisco Camada for AC Milan. This kid might even play against us at St James's Park. Massive thing for him, Mark. He got his debut at 15 years old in Serie A. But this stat blew me out of the water. So under 15 level, this kid has scored 485 goals in 89 games. I'm not fucking surprised he's making his first team debut at 15. That's like 5 goals a game. That's fucking mental stats.
How has it taken him so long to make his debut if he's scoring that? Genuinely. I mean, it's incredible that he's making his debut at that age. But Jesus, I can't get my head around those figures. I mean, those are like inflated Pele sort of figures, aren't they? It's just ridiculous. You've just got unbelievable.
It reminds me of when we used to play football at the YMCA. Remember that guy used to keep a goal record of every time I scored a goal or our mate Danny scored a goal. And I think I left there with like 700 goals or something. I was like, did you count them all? So it's a little bit like that, I think, mate, to be fair. So yeah, I never scored when you were in nets, though, you bastard. You always stopped me.
No, even with a broken leg.
Even with a broken leg, where I tried to 2-foot you 1-on-1, I forgot you had a broken ankle, didn't I? So yeah, but I mean, I think this kid will certainly keep going, mate. I think he's going to be a hell of a player. Has he got a camp for the addiction? Fucking hell, let's hope not, Ian. The only thing he could do was play conkers by the time Sandro was going down the bookies, I think, mate. So.
Is that too soon? I
don't know about that. Jesus, that'd be the best thing. Send him to Bible camp before we sign him, and just tell him that betting's a sin or something like that, and he won't do it. But I don't think we'll hear the last of that kid. I think he'll definitely be a player. I think, you don't score that many goals at youth level and then disappear. Michael Owen, you mentioned earlier, he was the same at youth level. He scored shitloads of goals. So did Wayne Rooney. And you know what happens to those kind of players, that they often just become, these unbelievable players. And speaking of an unbelievable player, just to finish Out of Toon, he's been an unbelievable player all his career. But he's also been an unbelievable shithouse. And one of the funniest things I've ever seen in football happened to the one and only Sergio Ramos at the weekend. So he's playing for Sevilla. He puts a tackle in. I think it was at Sociedad they were playing, I think. He puts a tackle in on the attacking player, puts a tackle in. A typical Ramos horrendous hatchet job tackle. He gets a second yellow card, and the ref sends him off. All hell breaks loose. They all surround the referee. Sergio Ramos decides to scream in the referee's face and tell him to go check the VAR mark, to which point the referee checks the VAR, realizes it was a worse tackle than he thought, scraps the second yellow and gives him a straight red, thus giving him a 3-match ban rather than a 1-match ban. I think Sergio's face probably sums up the fact that didn't quite go the way he wanted it to be. Do you have any sympathy for this world-renowned shithouse or not?
No, not at all. I mean, it was an awful challenge. I think in the melee as well, I think Navas got sent off too. But he is the ultimate shithouse, isn't he? Him alongside Pepe. I think you can kind of look at them both and just think, yeah, they sort of deserve each other, don't they? But yeah, I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing when you kind of complain that much about the challenge, which was a shocking tackle.
Awful tackle, mate. The Sunday League tackle. It's a Sunday League tackle.
It's in the side of the kid's leg. It's just awful. It deserved a red card. I'm amazed the ref didn't send him off straight away. But just the fact that he's kicked off so much, and the ref has gone and reviewed it. Obviously, VAR have jumped in and said, yeah, you need to have a look at this again. But the way he's still kicking off and then he gets it rescinded. I almost think when he goes to change it, Ramos thinks, oh, I've got away with that one. And then the red card's there as well. It's just brilliant. It is so funny. And is it something like his 27th red card of his career?
Something
he holds
like that.
the record in La Liga of 21 red cards, which
wow.
I'm sure he must be about 15 ahead of the next one.
Ian says he has got some trophy cabinet, to be fair to the kid. He has won everything going. And I did laugh when he presented Shakira with an award for the song that slag off Gerard Piqué. I'm pretty sure somewhere Gerard Piqué was already kicking himself that his ex-missus, who looks phenomenal, is getting an award for slagging him off in a song, but also presented by the player that he probably hates the most. Probably didn't go down very well. Hello to you, Weasel News. That's a great name. That, if you're a new viewer, subscribe. Like the video, guys, if you can as well. We've had quite a few views in the lives. You can smash a like on there. We always appreciate that as well. Comment there from Graham saying, last week a story in Spain where a flight was cancelled and customers had an overnight in northern Spain, only for Ramos and Sevilla to rock up to take that flight as theirs. Had gone tech. Oh, fucking hell. So they stole somebody's plane as well, Graham. Jesus, that's even worse. That's terrible. Typical Ramos. What a twat he is, honestly. I bet you Salah was loving that when he got sent off. He'd be watching that, eating popcorn somewhere, Mo Salah, after that tackle with that bloody injury that he had as well. But yeah, there's... Sorry, mate. Speaking
of popcorn, the team photograph from Saturday with
Willock.
Joe Willock in the front with his hand in his bag of popcorn. I'm just brilliant.
It was absolutely superb. It really was. But yeah, there's been loads of action going on in the Out of Toon. All joking aside, there is a rumor that Steve Bruce might get the Ireland job. We are going to keep an eye on that. And we don't post a lot on TikTok, but many of you do have seen our TikToks, especially ones regarding our former manager. There may be something appearing on there if Steve Bruce becomes the Ireland manager, because that is just too fucking good to not poke fun at. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, Mark, for certain, and just see what is going on in the future. But that's us done for another episode of What's Going On. Thank you so much to all you guys in the comments. We always appreciate it. It always helps the episode flow. As we mentioned, if you can smash a like as well, it really helps with the old algorithms. And if you want to subscribe as well, we are so close to 6K. Recommend us to family and friends. Get us 6K for Christmas. We'll be buzzing. We've got some mint prizes, Mark, as well. We're going to announce pretty soon, once we get a bit closer for 6K, that we're going to do giveaways on as well. They're really good prizes as well. Something to spruce up the home, I think, is what I would say, without giving it too much away. But a real fantastic prize. We're going to be back tomorrow after the PSG game. Hopefully, Newcastle can get the job done, and we'll be buzzing when we come back in for the post-match. But that's us done. Go and have a kip if you're in the UK, wherever you are in the world. Have a cracking day. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you later. Have a good one.
Take care, guys. See you.